show over the holiday so that we come to you every day this week, bring you somebody in politics. And so Mike Mahoney, the legend, yesterday was outstanding. How do you top Mike Mahoney? We're going to bring you one of the top minds in all of Missouri politics, Republican, Democrat, anywhere across the spectrum. Aaron Baker with Axiom Strategies, welcome into our update. Thank you for making the time.
I was wondering how I top Mike Mahoney either, but I appreciate the introduction nonetheless.
Well, let's jump right in here. You are now the biggest consulting firm in the world, the galaxy, universe, for sure, America, right?
For sure, the United States,
Yeah,
but
we don't fact check here on the
I
midweek
only
update.
work in Missouri, and it's a nimble operation, and we're working on a lot of races up
You
and
do
down
Missouri
the ballot.
too,
Yes,
right?
Axiom Strategies has a large footprint in Missouri and Republican politics nationwide.
And Missouri.
Yes,
Yeah,
that is the way you say it, Scott. But yes,
well, that's the right way
Missouri.
to say it. That's the way Jesus says it. Called it. But last year, I felt like it was so funny. You guys had this book of success. It's like, I got to thank my buddy Charles sending me this History of Southeast Missouri book. You wouldn't think there's this much history, right? I mean, that is like a Bible, family Bible-looking book. This would be the stack of wins you guys had. That statewide win for all Republicans was a little elusive. Schmidt was kind of the tip of your spear. I mean, I always felt there's a special relationship between Eric Schmidt and Axiom. You just were the right mix. His brand, his political talent mixed with the political talent of Axiom, I really thought was a really good dynamic. And the proof is, you win in 16 the treasurer's race. You get him reelected. You get him elected attorney general in 20. Then a U.S. Senate primary was bruising in 22. I mean, what a 22! You guys bring in Schmidt. Tell me how that is a special. When he talks about you guys, it's like a friendship, right?
That's right. It is a brand, so to speak, that each candidate has, but they win. Their names are on the ballot, and Eric Schmidt has a great background and great ideology to fit Missouri politics.
It feels like there's a special relationship with you guys. I mean,
yeah, we have a long, starting in the state Senate with his original race to where he is today, but again, he's a great man and did so on his own merits more than us. But it's an honor to be alongside him in doing so.
You win Burleson, tough primary down in Southwest Missouri. And then I thought maybe the signature win. The Schmidt thing to me is on a whole nother level, but a race that obviously when it started, nobody would have said Mark Alford's the front runner here. This is the guy. You guys had to win a very competitive race and manage outside money, manage in-state politics with a district that, hell, you didn't even know what the damn district was going to look like until May. And you come in with a guy that Alford. You told me back in the day, you said, you're going to like this Mark Alford. And damn it, he's just a man's man. He's just a great guy.
I will point out that I'm honest with you too whenever there are folks that you're not going to like. But yes, Mark Alford is a very high energy, likable guy. And it was not exhausting, but exhilarating, I guess, to watch the way that he approached campaigning, which was a pretty fresh way to get people involved in the process. And he's still doing that in the official office as well. You know what he's voting on. You can kind of participate in the debate, so to speak, on how he'll vote. And he takes this on with a tremendous amount of energy and really excited about his career and where he started from, TV, that TV market. If you were going to lunch with Mark Alford in Kansas City, you'd have to stop and take photos with, each table as you went through the restaurant. And so definitely knew that we had something special there, that folks knew him and enjoyed his brand on TV as well.
So I like the fact he's a guy's guy. And also he has not had a boring session to set up there. I mean, it hasn't been a boring 11 months. He's seen some things.
Yeah, that's it. It's definitely challenging, unique times. I was in DC with him within a week of the speaker election and the kind of chaos there. And it was just a remarkable time to be there. And I kept reminding him that these are historic times. When you're probably in the middle of it, you don't realize as much, but my goodness, this has been quite a year and an experience for him. And I'm glad he's the guy there.
Let's go through here. General election. It feels like, a few House losses, kind of losing Boone, picking up Jackson, but is this you do this professionally? It's like, it's one of those things where when somebody's bleeding, I'm like, oh, gross. But if you're a doctor, you just can go take care of it. You don't have the reaction. when people talk about politics, a lot of us go, "Oh, gross." I've just seen enough of it. I don't get too jazzed up either way. But my look at Trump is that Trump is he's getting you every damn rule voter you could possibly ever get. If they have a pulse, they want to vote for Trump and they're happy about it. But there is that suburban factor that's dropping off. And in one place where it's kind of the inverse, you got your Eastern Jackson County loves them some Trump and is becoming Republicans over it. But it's getting a little harder to hold some of those Boone County folks down.
Yeah, they're
a dynamic everywhere.
There are unique places that Trump has moved Democrat voters to Republican more rapidly than naturally was happening. Jefferson County, Buchanan County, and I would just say Independence. Not Jackson County, not Eastern Jack, not Lee Summit, but Independence. And that's sort of
a little bit of an inverse in Lee Summit, right? It's just not as drastic.
Yeah, Lee Summit's gone pretty woke. Not Blue Springs, but Lee Summit is a problem for Republicans that Trump is not going to help with. But in Independence, Aaron McMullen, should he win the primary, and I believe he will definitely benefit from a Trump candidacy, if that is to be, or a strong.
Tell folks about Aaron McMullen. I feel like that's the name everybody's going to know 18 months from now. Tell folks about him now.
Right. So Aaron McMullen's a rising star in the Republican Party. He doesn't talk about it often, but he, was injured while serving our country. He's a decorated veteran, has served one term in the state house, and is running to replace Democrat Senator J.J. Rizzo in Jackson County. Will likely flip that seat. So whereas Democrats will pick up Boone County, we believe Aaron McMullen will pick up Jackson, and the Senate will be a wash.
To me, this is one of the more interesting statewide down ballots you're ever going to see. Before we get to the down ballot, let's talk about the governor's race. So you guys doing a little work for a PAC that's helping Kehoe, correct?
That's right.
So Mahoney and I were jaw-jacking yesterday about this. It feels like a one-on-one. If I'm Mike Kehoe, I like a three-way race, especially like a three-way race with a guy who can deliver an attack like Eigel, delivering most of them. I mean, you're in the business of this. If you're on Bill Eigel's social media to see the attacks he's throwing at Kehoe, you know who you're voting for, and if you're persuadable, you're not on Bill Eigel's Facebook considering Kehoe. But you could be in that world of influence and considering Ashcroft. And Bill Eigel can throw a punch. I mean, let's just be honest. The guy can land a punch. It looks to me like Bill Eigel's bushwhacking a way through for Kehoe to win.
So
am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. I think that the more complicated this primary gets, the better for Mike Kehoe. As you always say, he's the statesman of the race. He's
the bull of the woods.
Yeah. So you have Jay Ashcroft, who I would describe as impractically conservative. The guy is the Secretary of State. I can think of a couple of instances where he was able to write ballot language, and he took it so far to the extreme that the courts had to do it over again. If he was a little bit more
effective,
not so extreme, but in the middle, making it look like he's attempting to call balls and strikes, I think that his ballot language would have stuck. But
will Republican primary voters punish you for losing? If you're so right-wing that you lose, do they have a punishment for that? Or are they happy to lose at a battle like the abortion ballot language? They're happy to lose as long as you were trying to be the most extreme person you could be.
That is correct.
Tell me what's the better position?
So when we govern, when one of these gentlemen are elected, I think that Kehoe will be the one that moves the state farther to the right, more of like a Tennessee, a Texas, a Florida, because Ashcroft can't get it done. He can't build the coalition to do it. He can't have the strategy and tactics to get there.
Well, look, this is going to come down to, can you sit in a room? I mean, what an interesting, whoever's the governor, you're going to have to sit down with John Patterson, who highly intelligent. You're not going to emotionally rattle him. He's a guy's guy, probably brighter than anybody else in the room most of the time. He's going to make it make sense. And Cindy O'Loughlin, I found, if your plan doesn't make sense, it doesn't matter how conservative it is. She's not going to do something that doesn't make sense. And so if you're governor, you got to sit and sell two very different people who I actually think are going to work extremely well together. I bet it'll be an interesting time where if you don't I don't think you'll be able to triangulate one house against the other with those two. I think
No.
they're from the outside, they look very different. From when you get to know them, real pragmatic, very confident in making a decision. Neither have trouble making a decision. I think those two are going to work together very well. It's going to be an interesting time. I go back to, if you're a Republican primary voter, do you give a damn that your guy can't get stuff done as long as he's being as crazy as he can be? Do you punish him for that? And do you get a different guy that can actually win? I watch
No,
Mike
I think
Kehoe
that
at the forefront of all these deals, all the things that Missouri Right to Life promotes, all the things the Republican Party's biggest successes. Kehoe was in the room at 2 a.m. I was sitting in the gallery. He was back there twisting arms and getting it done. And it seems like right wingers will do nothing but punish him and want to reward anybody else that wasn't in the room.
Correct. Mike Kehoe is going to need to do more Yellowstone cowboy hat on the horse type pictures.
I thought the cowboy hat on the horse thing was great. That was the best part of that because it looked real. Nobody else in that field can ride a horse and say, I'm going to kick your ass, but Mike Kehoe.
More bush hogging and no like suit and tie in front of the chamber to win this sort of thing because
if Mike Kehoe looked you in the eye and said, I'm going to whip your ass, he's the one guy in that race. I think, well, he might do it. Shit.
I don't know. Bill Eigle's got some military background.
I think Bill Eigel could do it. I'm saying if Bill Eigel made the threat, I don't think it would land. But if Mike Kehoe made the threat, I think it would land on just a regular old boy at a bar in Vienna, Missouri.
Yeah. So my thought on Eigel is great guy, by the way. I helped with his original state Senate run.
Okay, then explain this to me. If we were at dinner, Bill Eigel would be the most self-deprecating, funny, charming dude. You just want to hug him when he left. On the Senate floor, whoa, it's a whole different deal. Why the difference? I've asked him that. He never says. He gives a speech at a Republican club. He's the best orator in the party. But he gets on that Senate floor, it's like, oh, man, Bill.
I think that he surrounds himself by advisors that spin him up and in ways that cause chaos in the Senate, who are doing the bidding of trial lawyers and other special interests that benefit from chaos in the Senate. He's currently at 5% in this governor's race. I don't know that it's that concerning what Bill Eigel does at this point. I think he'll do a lot of it on social media. And I'm a big fan of the We the People type movement, but I think that those are maybe the only folks that he's reaching and may ever reach.
I'm a little more optimistic on his ceiling. I think his message, I mean, when he does radio, he's the best in the party at radio. He knows how to do something just kind of jerkish that he knows the Post and the Star will freak out about. And then he'll be like, of course I'm right. If they hate me, I'm right. And he fundraises off it. I see his ceiling a little higher. Well, let me ask you this. If he let's say he hits 15% of that 15%, if they did not vote for Bill Eigel, what would be the breakdown between the two major candidates of that 15% if they weren't voting Eigel?
You know, I don't know how to answer that because I don't have enough data to tell you that, and we want to be data.
Just give me just your old Atlanta horse sense.
What I want to say is that unlike a state treasurer's race or secretary of state, people actually take some effort, which is kind of shocking in a primary. Typically, we just assume they go for the farthest right or farthest left. People actually put some effort into looking into who their governor is going to be.
I think that's right.
So I don't think that it's safe to assume that folks are just going to vote for Ashcroft because they know that name.
I think there is some folks that's going to do that. How big a pile that is, you could convince
for
me.
For governor, less so than you would expect. I
would agree with that.
Other races,
but now, I still think there's a segment that's real.
In a state Senate race, they're going to vote for who's from my county or the county next door. But for governor, they're actually going to pay attention. They're going to notice what groups they're involved with and who they've endorsed.
Will these groups actually make these endorsements matter? I mean, Cardetti's sitting here and gave me a great analogy that if today we don't care if you say something nice about somebody, it's just in the fog of no cares. But if you say this guy is going to screw you, and if we're all across the spectrum, we see endorsements not mattering. Are any groups willing to step up and say, no, it's not just that we like this guy. This guy sucks because of this.
I think Republicans aren't as good as Democrats at being told who to vote for and following their instructions.
That feels right.
It kind of depends on, if these organizations send out a mailer and say, hey, we've endorsed this guy, we've endorsed Kehoe. Here's how far right he is and why we endorsed him. It has to come with some sort of ideological message with it.
Okay, that
not
makes
just
sense.
we've endorsed him, but there's a lane in every race, and he's going to have to take a big lane. In the Alford race, Titus Bond at Remington Research Group, great pollster, knows Missouri really, really well, said, hey, Bratton, Irwin, Taylor Burks, they're all going to run as veterans, and Mark Alford can't do that. There was a farmer in the race, and she was going to take the farmer lane. And so from an Alford advertising perspective, we chose to take on a faith lane, so to speak, where he, in his ads, was face to camera talking about, in a genuine way, his faith in Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. And so Kehoe has to pick a lane that's not Chamber of Commerce, but is rural and genuinely conservative.
Yeah.
And there's not a, we're going to run to the center in a primary. It's going to have to be who's the farthest right to win this thing.
I think there are some votes out there. I mean, Trump's kind of thing was, Trump's not certainly conservative,
No.
but he would, he was with testosterone. I got a bigger house. I've got a hotter wife. I got a bigger boat or whatever.
Right.
And I think Mike Kehoe can look in the camera and say, I'm gonna whip someone's ass. And then he turns his horse around and rides off. And it'll actually look real.
I'm gonna look like Kevin Costner doing it.
Yeah, well, I prefer Governor Dutton, but yes, either one. I think let's go through some of these statewide races though. You guys are taking on two incumbents. Let's jump down lieutenant governor. So right now, Holly Rader's running. I think Bob Onder's running, and I think Dean Plocker's running. I'm pretty sure Bob's running. If you're on Team Holly like you are, you want to tell them both the water's fine. Both jump in, fellas, right?
Yeah, we'll take as many men, politicians, long-standing legislators as we can get. This is a race with a lot of talent.
Yeah.
I think that Speaker Plocker has a tremendous bank account, and he's willing to put the work in. I don't really understand why a pro-life guy like Bob Onder doesn't have more interest in Secretary of State, or perhaps even running for Congress. But I think a lot of state senators want to be a lieutenant governor to kind of lord over the state Senate. I mean, it kind of makes sense. They want to be the head honcho of the chamber where they come from.
And you can keep your day job.
Right.
It's technically a part-time job. So I mean, it's nothing wrong with that. It's very acceptable and almost encouraged that you'd have another job. And I mean, that's the pay is reflected in that. And the job duties are specifically said it's a legislator's schedule is what I think it was ideally envisioned as.
Right. So Holly Rader's a super talented author, state senator, great story, great connections, great fundraiser. We look forward to the advertising ahead for that campaign. Look, I don't think it's letting any secrets out to say that in these races, you have to build yourself up. I think a lot of these statewide candidates, I think about David Gregory versus Scott Fitzpatrick last time. You only have enough resources, and people only care enough to hear positive things about you.
That's
so
what I
her
want.
Positive story is going to be great.
I want to pull this through because I mean, I had people when I sent my tip sheet out. Help me send it out yesterday, I guess. People were like,
"Yes, we did."
Why do you think Holly Rader's the front runner? I said, "Well, she's been in the race. I don't think Plocker's issues are going to hurt him necessarily with voters. I think they may hurt fundraising. I mean, really, you have when your speaker, it's a huge November, December fundraising month. Whether we'll see what the numbers say, but he was at least distracted with fundraising with some of this other stuff. And I think she's been in the race working it. I think that she has access to donors that see her talent and see it as more than just lieutenant governor. But let's jump in the state treasurer's race. I think that may be a great example. The Secretary of State and Treasurer, I've always felt like, okay, a good like you guys are you working with Cody Smith?
That's right.
So Andrew Koenig, terrific senator, one of the hardest working people in politics, and Vivek Malik. Vivek's got like almost $2 million on hand.
Correct.
Now, to me, if you're fundraising, I've watched these races in a three-way. What's that? There's an old Spider-Man meme where they're all dressed as Spider-Man, pointing at each other. The other one did it. Usually I see folks, both candidates, that if they're significant, can put together the $750,000 to $1 million, which could get their name out, or it could attack the front runner. And usually in a three-way race, the two people that aren't winning look at each other and say, he's going to spend his money to attack the front runner. I'll spend my money to promote myself, and I'll be president in 20 years. Well, I just wonder, can you put together enough money in a state treasurer race to promote yourself and attack the front runner if he's got triple your money?
No, you don't have enough money to attack anyone in a down ballot race, and no one cares enough to think, oh, well, isn't that the guy running for state treasurer that did this horrible thing? They just can't. Voters just only have so much attention, and they're hopefully going to put it in the governor's race and AG perhaps.
Yeah.
But a down ballot race like that, you've got a woman also in that race who, her effort so far has been to stroke herself a $500,000 check, which is
not a bad effort.
So it's a very complicated race. You're going to have to figure out what voters are your type of voters statewide and in what media market, and take a scalpel to it. It's very complicated.
Are you guys working for anybody in the Secretary of State's race?
No, we are not yet. That spot on our dance card is open. I think that of all the races, it probably has the most potential of a new person jumping in, maybe a self-funder. I don't know of any names right now, but to me, that's the race with the most potential. If I'm a Bob Onder, I would have chosen to get into that race, for the pro-life movement. And so I just think that that's a spot probably where it's the most unsettled position on a statewide ballot. But, Missouri's a weird politically state historically of odd things happening. So who knows?
So break that Secretary of State's race down. I think that could be one where you've got Shane Schuler, got a chunk down in Southwest Missouri, Denny Hoskins and Caleb Browden, the rematch from the floor leaders race from 5 years ago, I guess it'll be. To me, Caleb Browden might have enough money to define himself and define his opponents. That's his lane, right?
Yeah, he's going to have to suspend intellectual integrity a bit and make some stances that maybe fit the electorate more than Boone County has for him.
Bullshit.
In his campaign.
He's gonna have to bullshit more.
And I don't know that he's willing to run to the right far enough to do that. And so,
all right. Well, answer me this: let's take Caleb out of it. If you're a candidate in a similar position, there is a dollar amount you can raise that you can do whatever you want in a down ballot race and win, right? The strategy becomes less important when you have enough. What is that resource amount where it's just going to be damn hard to beat a guy no matter what he does?
Typically a down ballot race, they're raising 600 to 800, raising and spending 600 to 800,000. I imagine if you got more towards 1.5 plus, that you would be able to sustain an ad.
You'd be pretty cocksure about whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the AG's race. To me, the most interesting race on the ballot, more than the governor's race, more than anything else. You have the incumbent Missouri boy, war hero. You have Will Scharf, probably one of the brightest people I can actually text message. But he's kind of an East Coast thing. Will has this great resume. It's like the Greitens stuff. There's people that like that, people that don't. It's a push. Who even really cares? It's been a long time. Then you go, well, he worked for Trump's Department of Justice. Well, he worked for Biden's. And it's everything's got a great, Will has this great list of impressive things. And he went to Harvard, and nobody likes those people. So it's a challenge, right? It's an interesting race. When you take it on, in my tip sheet, I came down to 2 questions, and I'll pose them to you. I mean, I don't think there's any secret. There's going to be millions of dollars from Washington spent attacking Bailey. Is he tough enough politically to fire back? I see a quote from Hafner about the Prince of Palm Beach or whatever. I thought that was, okay, that's tough, right? Then, by the same token, Scharf is going to have all the money, and I have no doubt there'll be attacks that hit Bailey, and he'll be able to do that very well. What's Will's message to connect with a Missourian?
So attacking someone geographically is tough, but it's not ideological. And I think Scharf has a better position ideologically. I remember I was a little obsessed with my kids not being able to go to school because of quarantines. And I remember folks approaching Governor Parsons' administration about the lockdowns, about quarantines, and legal counsel Andrew Bailey was of no help at that time. And so I just think that there are some things ideologically that Will Sharp will get to the right of Andrew Bailey on. But look, Andrew Bailey is probably the best Lincoln Day speaker I've ever heard.
He took right
and I've
to it,
been
right?
to so many
Damnedest
Lincoln
things.
Days. I love them. I love
You
them.
think
In
it would have took a
2012,
long time for him to get good at it, right? But the son of a gun just
he's
walked
so
in and was
good.
good at it.
Yeah, so I probably went to 50, I feel like, in 2012. I've been to a lot of Lincoln Days, and he's the best person on the stump. But at the end of the day, for AG, people are kind of thinking, who do I want to put away murderers? Which one of these guys looks tough? And, you know,
how do you convince folks that it's the Harvard guy over the Montgomery County farm boy war hero?
Sharp is ideologically farther to the right, and he never smiles.
Well,
You know,
I tell
Andrew
you though,
Bailey's a warm and friendly person.
if you
Sharp,
meet one-on-one with Sharp, you come away thinking this guy's a genius, right?
yeah, and
I've
that
just
he can
seen it.
put
People
away
that went
murder.
into meetings thinking they were never going to like him even. They're like,
Right.
well, this guy's smart and he's a nice guy, you know? So it's interesting to me. I just wonder, his message to actually connect with folks will be interesting to me to see. And can Bailey fight off the Washington folks? That it's going to be, to me, it's the most interesting race to see what Missourians actually give a damn about. And we'll find. That's why I like covering elections. We'll find out, right? Do the Cardinals have enough pitching? Well, we'll find out. Next summer will be telling on many fronts.
Right.
So tell me, it feels like when you work with Axiom, it's a little different. What sets apart Axiom?
So, you know, we say that we're in the business of winning. So we are with a candidate from beginning to end. We are not, I always tell the people I work with, listen, I'm not your therapist. I'm not your best friend. I'm not your spouse. We're here for a brand, and we're here for the long haul. And we are going to be with you in the foxhole. And we're in the business of winning. So what is different from our model, not for the candidates, but from a business perspective and being able to do this for the long haul, we don't forget to the business side of things. And you're seeing a huge amount of consolidation in the industry, in the political consulting world. And I think it's because people have great relationships and they have that side of the brain figured out, but they don't have the business side of things figured out. And I think that's what Axiom's secret sauce is.
It is just the truth that you could tell it with lobbyists. If someone sends a bill to a lobbying firm, the ones that pay that in the 30 days, they're successful for a reason. And consulting firms, I always think it's funny. People think there's some big smoke-filled back room, somebody come up with great ads, and I'm sure there are, and that's important. But execution, having the mail drop the right day, having the voter contact pieces out, having the lid drop done, those frankly are more important than all the other cute things when you really break it down.
Having the quality video and photos done before you ask about having ads. Yes.
So let me walk through this. So when we're doing these state Senate races, what's a good cycle for you? If you take on 10 races, what are you expecting to win out of that?
Taking on 10 state Senate races in Missouri, we expect we tend to win 80% of the primaries that we're involved in, and so that would be where we're headed now. We are fortunate because of our history here and our long-standing business that we often have a pick of a litter, so to speak, when it comes to candidates. And we are looking for candidates that are the most conservative, that can raise the most money, and most likely to win. And in a state Senate race, that often has to do with geography.
So give me this. So let's take that Secretary of State's race. You don't have a dog in the fight, right?
That's right.
As of now. How would you decide who you're going to pick? Or even if you don't want to make it personal, give me what you look for. Because let's be honest. I mean, I don't think it's no secret. It's not brown nosing you. When people are going to run state Senate statewide, you're one of the firms they want to go interview, see if they can bring on board. How do you delineate if you have your pick of some folks courting you? How do you pick who you're going to go with?
We look at their voting record, how conservative they are, their ability to raise money. And for Secretary of State, we're also going to look at what part of the advertising we want to be involved in so that we have some control of the success, the outcome. And, you know, if we're not going to be able to sit first chair, and we're not going to be able to maybe create the TV ads or something of that aspect, we might sit it out because we don't want to be in a position where we don't control the outcome as much as we would like.
Did y'all do Schmidt's blowtorch ad?
I imagine that I to be honest, I can't remember who did.
You remember that I'm talking about though? Is he was doing a blowtorch or something? I
Yeah.
thought, you know what? That is actually, he's a big guy, looked good. I thought that was an ad that took him further right, but it didn't take him where it's goofy. And you're like, oh, that's bullshit. I thought it was that to me was a very, whoever the narrative behind that, I thought was an exceptional ad. It was
Right.
It's like you said about Ashcroft. It was enough. It wasn't too much.
We sit down with the candidates and go through reels of different folks that make TV ads that we are in business with or not. And we pick the right vendor for each candidate. And
then you were nice enough to let him run his softball ad. That was nice of you guys.
I think that, you know, it was a very good match. And like you said, it was a very good ad because you have to have that machismo, so to speak, that you were talking about with Kehoe to get those ads across.
And I think, you know, you can have whatever ad company you want. You could embellish and put the best light on, but a guy either he's a man's man or he's not. He's right. as you said before, he's tough. He doesn't smile or what, you know, there's some of that stuff. These aren't actors. These, you know, this was a lawyer from Glendale, right? You know, it is what it is. But you can write a good ad that has to kind of play to his strengths a little bit because these aren't. Right. This isn't Dustin Hoffman out here doing the ad.
Right.
All right. Let's roll through some state senate races. Do you have a second to stick with us?
Yep.
Got it. First of all, I always want to thank my buddy Roy. Look at this. Look at this beggar. I mean, this is a beautiful. It's called pewter. Got the top on it. Celebrating 125 years of the world's greatest brewery. Damn it, that is a fine stein. I appreciate it, buddy. Also, you know, Aaron, if you're going to meet a candidate and it's like, you know, I'm going to be president, but my first step is going to be state rep. I want to come to Jeff City and meet with you.
That's already a red flag. If you tell me you want to be governor or president and you're running for state rep, and that's the first thing you tell me when we sit down. But yeah, go ahead.
They don't say it, but we both know they're thinking it, right? They would never say it out loud.
I hope not,
but they're, you know, they're thinking it.
Yeah.
So, and he says, hey, meet me at my hotel. What is the hotel you could kind of separate the wheat from the chaff?
The hotel that you can?
In Jeff City, if you're going to meet at a hotel, what's the top hotel?
Well, it's Courtyard by Marriott.
Well, yeah, see, that's the thing. So if you're looking to run for office, I have some questions here about running for office. First of all, stay at the Courtyard by Marriott. Don't go cheap. Don't suck. You have a choice in hotels. Don't suck. Also, we had a little hiccup earlier with our broadband. Do you know how we would not have had that damn problem if we were on United Electric Co-op? We were on United Fiber. We would not have had this problem. Kelton wouldn't be pissed off. He wouldn't have punched a hole in the wall. You know, the poor guy's getting married in 3 days. He's got to deal with this bullshit Wi-Fi. If we were on United Fiber, this wouldn't happen.
No, they would treat us right, I'd imagine.
Exactly. So let's jump to the state senate races. You talked about most conservative, best fundraiser, most likely to win. To me, the most intriguing state senate race is Doug Ritchie, Curtis Gregory. A true top-end, legit fight. Doug Ritchie, great politician, got some geographic help. Curtis Gregory, a farmer, kind of your man's man guy from the rural side of the district. You guys are on the Gregory team. Break down how you got there and how's this race going to shake out?
Yeah, so I still to this day consider Doug Ritchie a friend. He was helping out at my dad's visitation. He's just a great guy, a great candidate.
Damn fine politician.
Curtis Gregory's been to my home for our annual Schmidt boil. Like, they're just personal friends of mine. It was a very difficult decision. 42% of the district lives in Clay County. So that's a help to Doug Ritchie. He has a good voting record. Only a third of those voters, though, in Clay County have ever been represented by Doug Ritchie. And our belief is that in a rural district, and we know North Missouri well, that the best state Senate candidates are going to be farmers. And Curtis Gregory has a tremendous network of folks, not just through the University of Missouri, but through the ag organizations that he's served in. And whereas we believe wholeheartedly state Senate races in these multiple county districts are determined by geography, a Clay County voter will not stick with a Clay County state rep quite like a Cooper, Howard, Lafayette County voter would stick with a Saline County state rep. They just
if you move to Clay County for 20 years to make your money, and then you move back to where you're from, or Florida, or whatever, retire,
right?
You don't have the same investment, just a different culture.
Right. So again, both great guys. Someday, neither of them have ever said they want to do this. They're probably not thinking of it, but they could both easily be in Congress together someday. And I'd love to be a part of helping them get there. But right now we're in a very tough situation and a tough map that has them running against each other for state Senate.
Who's going to win?
I think that a farmer wins in this district. I think that Curtis Gregory is doing what he needs to do. He has the right vote record, the right ag groups behind him. Mizzou being really, really hot right now does not.
Isn't that hell? That's a big thing for him, right? I mean, they're going to go to the Cotton Bowl or something.
But I mean,
Troy's done such an amazing job with that college. But it's still, when the football team is good, it just matters.
Right, and that does help Curtis Gregory throughout the entire district. So
all right, so Kelton, I don't know if you knew this, started an illegal gambling poll, and if any cops are watching, it was all Kelton's idea. I was very much against it, but I have been winning in it. We're going to do the SEC championship. Alabama -6 playing Georgia. Kelton, who'd you take?
I took Georgia.
I took Bama. I think Saban's tired of getting pushed around. Who do you got? $10 a pop. Who do you got?
Georgia.
Didn't
Alabama barely beat Auburn?
They barely beat Auburn. I think Saban's pissed off and got something to prove. And while I don't know that he wins, I'm going to take Alabama. I'm going to take the points. I'm going to count Kelton's money and your money now. All right, we're rolling through here. Interesting race in St. Charles County. But I think you've got a real transformational guy in Phil Crispinelli. I mean, if he's elected to the Senate, he's going to be he will very few people. Lincoln Huff, when he got elected to the Senate, it started a change in the Senate. It put a little piss and vinegar in one of the crews. I think it won't be like that. I think Phil Crispinelli going to the Senate will be the first person as Lincoln that really changes the Senate and makes it it'll be a different place if Phil's there. Tell me who wins that race and how.
I think that Phil Crispinelli has a fundraising advantage that's going to be significant, a great story to tell, and he's not only right on the issues, but he's the tip of the spear on being right on the issues. He's a subject matter expert on being right on the issues. And so I actually don't think it'll be close.
And he can kind of do it in a way that's not an asshole. Like the smartest guy in the room, usually the valedictorian's not the class president.
Right.
Phil's the smartest guy in the room, but he comes off and he's got a good way about it, you know?
Right. And I think that Schnelting does not. I think that he comes off as
a little harsh,
smug on ideology. And so I don't think
you're putting together a crew in that state Senate. When you start talking about a Curtis Trent, you put a Curtis Gregory in there with a Phil Crispinelli. I mean, you're talking about it's kind of it'll be interesting. It'll be the next generation of leaders really starting to step up and take over.
But
it's an interesting time.
That's how the Senate is. You know, the quality of state reps varies widely.
Yeah.
But you have to be pretty sharp to make it to the state Senate, and it is an exciting crop that's coming in. And
like young guys. Are you working with Gregory in Koenig's district?
Yes. Yeah.
It feels like to me, look, Mark Carter is going to get a chunk of votes. He's ran before. It's hard to get your name out when you're on the ballot that many times. There is some advantage to that, but it feels like Gregory. I mean, if he knocks on your door, you're going to remember it, right? I mean, the guy looks like $1 million, charisma. It feels like he's going to raise enough money to kind of get that point where he can define himself and he can define his opponents. It feels like where he's trending towards.
Right. David Gregory seems like the guy that would be too busy to knock on doors, but he's actually obsessive about it. And almost
whatever he does, he's going to be obsessive about. There's no damn doubt that whatever he does, it'll be obsessive.
And so he's doing a lot of doors. And I think what we're running into is that Jim Bolin is a mayor in that district. And sometimes we have ran into situations in which doctors or mayors or people that are kind of known running for state rep and state Senate sometimes aren't liked for some reason. And we haven't polled it yet, but I just have this feeling just based on the feedback from the doors, that Jim Bolin is going to have a little bit higher unfavorability than folks expect.
Well, when you're in the mayor, you make real decisions that affect folks. And some folks ain't going to be happy with that. No matter if you make the right decision, somebody's ticked about it, right?
Right. So I think that will be interesting. Bolin is going to have to dig himself out of a basement, and it's just starting off from behind, it seems like.
All right. Just a couple more here. You got interesting race in Cass County, Cass and Johnson and Bates. I normally don't bet on state senators to lose because they don't. Senator White and Senator Robin Wright Jones, that's the list in the last 10 years anyway. So I see Bratton, though, and to me, there are a couple issues pop up. Number one, you got Mike Hafner cutting into his Cass County advantage. Then you've got Dan Howks in Johnson County, a huge chunk of votes in Johnson County. If Hafner, what number does Hafner need to get for Rick Bratton in Cass County for Bratton to start worrying?
Well, just from memory, there's 15,000 Republican primary votes in Cass. 8,000.
There's only one guy that would actually remember that, and it wouldn't be bullshitting. Like, I believe that's actually probably the number.
Well, we had to know it for the Alford race. So 15 in Cass, 8 in Johnson. I don't know, 2.5, 2,500 in Bates. And so Johnson plus Bates does not add up to nearly what Cass is itself. So Bratton getting 55% in Cass is probably enough. I haven't ran the vote model. We're not involved in that race, at least not yet. Bratton, Mo Scout had Bratton at 59%. That's a pretty good start. And Howks and
Well, I agree. How will the landfill issue work? I mean, if the House, I assume, will pass a landfill bill like Landfill Monday, they'll just shoot a bill out. But in the Senate, I mean, I think Senator Bratton's got himself sideways with a couple senators. If he's not able to pass that landfill bill, where will those activists go?
I think the conservative caucus types have a really hard time with tactics. And I don't know that they're like a fastball
pitcher. They have one pitch. It's, if you're not with us, you can go to hell. And they throw that pitch over and over and over. And after a while, like no matter how fast your fastball is, if that's the only pitch you throw, somebody's going to hit it.
I think that you might think that Bratton failed on the landfill issue last time, and that voters might think that, but I'm just
curious what happens this coming session. If once a week Howks and Hafner could say we passed a landfill bill, and one can't get through the Senate, despite I'm sure Bratton will go all in. I mean, I don't doubt he'll legitimately be trying to block this. So maybe they'll see his efforts and give him good faith credit. But if they see his efforts truly trying, but if he doesn't succeed, again, do Republican primary voters punish you for losing?
No, they go for passion. And I think that it would be very hard for anyone to be as passionate about anything as Rick and Athena Bratton.
Well, that's probably right. Last one, a race that you son of a guns pulled out by the skin of your teeth down in Southeast Missouri, elected Holly Rader 4 years ago. I remember, it looked, I have a bias for people I like, having a hard time calling races election night. And I'm glad I had that bias because she looked beat. Then Madison County come in the last couple of Cape precincts. I mean, you guys had to know that district like the back of your hand to win that race for a non-Cape county and to win it. Holly Rader's running for lieutenant governor. You want to talk about the political talent? If you've ever been to Cape Girardeau people love them some Cape Girardeau, and they ain't real keen on anybody else. And the fact that Holly is the first person I've ever heard of, not being from Cape County, holding that Senate seat, is just damned impressive. But now you've got a situation where, look, I know that there's Jacob Turner, Cape Girardeau guy.
I forget about that.
County.
Yeah.
Now I've heard, I don't know this, but former rep and current judge Scott Lipke is going to look at it. I can't say he's going to do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was. I believe your Cape Countyans will have someone. Lipke would fit that profile. How do you go if you're Chris Dinkins, setting where you took Holly from sitting in Sykeston? How do you go win that seat?
I think that Holly Rader could talk to business owners in Cape Girardeau and Jackson in particular and connect with them. And I think that Chris Dinkins will have a harder time connecting with chamber members in Cape and Jackson than Holly Rader did. And so that is going to have to be her secret sauce, is breaking into, like, you don't have to win Cape County by any means, but you need to get above 30, obviously. And
well,
I don't
and also
know.
Holly was from Scott County, which has a bigger vote share, frankly, than Iron.
And they turned out big, just like Carla
Yeah.
Esslinger's county turned out for her. Holly Rader's county turned out big. You know, you talked about Madison County. We had a good county captain in every county, including Madison, that was pushing out Holly Rader info. And I think that is, you know, we talked about the Secretary of State's race being the most unsettled race on the statewide ballots. I think that this state Senate seat we're talking about now is the most unsettled race on of the state Senate districts.
But you have to think, your Peter Kinder types, your Old Town Cape Girardeau types. You're going to have, if it's not Lipke, they'll have someone, right? And that'll round out the race.
Yes.
It looks to me like maybe Rick Francis may run, may not. Probably doesn't help Chris Dinkins if he runs. Jacob Turner. Now, Barry Hovis, I hear, is opening up the state rep seat in Jackson, which Turner could run for. That could make it interesting.
Barry Hovis says he's running for re-election.
Run for re-election. Gotcha.
But there is a guy that has announced for his seat. Again, I think it's more likely that Cape County will mess up and have more than one candidate. You know, Jacob Turner aside, more than
more than Jacob Turner
kind of establishment type candidate that fits Cape County well, and that's going to be a mistake. One strong candidate from Cape will have
should win.
It's
going to take some crazy shit for a one candidate from Cape not winning, like last time. It's going to be 100 vote difference or whatever. And
right, Iron County is not Scott County. Scott County had over 5,000 votes. Yeah. Iron County does not. So
interesting. I'm with you until you see who files. I mean, I like what Chris Dinkins doing. I mean, she's hustling. She's of the things you can do, she's doing. I liked her attention thing about the immigrants. Thought that was good politics. I mean, she's doing everything you can do.
It's good primary politics, yes.
Well, sure, and then she's running the primary, so there you go. But it'll be in the day when the cards fall where that is. Aaron Baker, I took more time than I asked for from you. I sure appreciate it. Next time you're in town, let me know. Love to sit down and visit with you.
Will do.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
You are not going to find a smarter guy about Missouri politics than Aaron Baker. And I love the fact you said he's not your therapist. He's not that. Aaron Baker's going to tell you what you need to know and probably have to get off the phone because you got to tell somebody else something. I enjoy. There's not a tip sheet I ever put together that I don't kind of walk through and pick his brain on. He knows the state forwards and backwards. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Speaking of a guy, the guy that has the job that everybody pretends to have when they run statewide, Lincoln Huff, is going to join us. We'll talk Highway 70, roads, money, and we'll get his pick in Kelton's illegal gambling pool tomorrow at 11. This